These are the highest probability plays for today. This is the Daily Profit, sponsored by Linemaker Sports. I am Frank with Linemaker Sports. In this show, I'm going to go through the highest probability plays for the day, and we are going to discuss exactly the chances of hitting these. So, before we get into today, let's talk about yesterday's stuff. We had some successful plays across the board there, but I usually always play the highest one, which yesterday was Marcell Ozuna to get a hit. All right, 75.3% probability of that happening. It was a little bit of a sweat because he didn't get it till his third at bat, but nonetheless, still ended up winning with that. All right. As for pitcher props, a couple of those came through. I didn't play really any of them. The other hitter, that one ended up coming through, Starling Marte. If you guys, I seen some people in the comments that went and played that, and that one was an easy one, so there was no sweat on that whatsoever. But like I said, each day when I show you guys exactly the probability of something happening, you take it for what it is. All right. As I tell you and I explain it to you, hopefully it helps you and makes you understand exactly how to be a successful sports bettor and how to set yourself up for success in the long run. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the slate for today. We're going to go through playoff baseball and Thursday night football. All right, so first off, let's talk about the pitchers. There's only one game going on for baseball today. All right, the pitcher, first one that we're going to look at is Tobias Myers. All right, he has a 74.07% chance to go under 2.5 earned runs overall. That drops just a little bit, not too much. All right, 71.43% chance to go under 2.5 earned runs versus the top 10 batting teams in the league. So still hovering in the 70% in both ranges there. So not too bad. All right, not what we seen yesterday where a lot of the pitchers drastically drop when they play against, better batting teams. This one, he only drops about almost 3%. All right, not too bad. Still hovers in the 70 percentile, so that's pretty good. Next up is Jose Quintana. All right, he has a 58% probability to go under 2.5 earned runs as a whole. Now that actually goes up when he goes against better teams. So maybe he just decides to step up when he goes against better teams. But that goes up to 66%. All right, 66% probability of under 2.5 earned runs when he faces better batting teams. So, as far as pitching wise here, I would obviously probably lean towards Tobias Myers because he's in the 70s. I mean, Jose Quintana is not that bad of a choice, but like as I tell you guys each day, if you guys want the ones that I actually play and not just spitballing all the ones that are on here, make sure you guys go in the description, all right, and click the link. It's that simple, all right? Because I don't play every single one. Just like I showed you guys, when I show you the results, I don't play every single one that I show you here. All right, I only choose the highest ones because I want to set myself up for success. All right, I play to win. I don't play just to play. All right, let's get to the NFL now because actually, you know what? I think I do have one more baseball. I have a hitter. All right, Willy Adames. Willy Adames has a 62.22% chance to get a hit. He's batting 357 off of Quintana. All right, so decent there. That's decent. This is kind of hovering around what most of our hitters in the last couple of days have been at. They've been in that 60% range, 62 to 67. We did get a little bit higher one last night with Marcell Ozuna with 75%, but usually because there's so many games that these players play in that the average it averages out to about 62 to 70% in that range. You usually don't get hitters above that for probabilities. That's why last night was a rare case with Ozuna to have a 75% chance for him to actually get a hit. But tonight you got Willy Adames. He has a 62.2% chance to get a hit. And like I said, he's batting 357 off Quintana. That's about over, I think, 8 at bats. So not a huge sample size, but a decent sample size. All right, for him going against Jose Quintana. Now, let's go and get into Thursday night football. First one we're going to talk about is Baker Mayfield. All right, let's take a look at his passing yards. So for his passing yards, he has a 66% chance to go over 200 passing yards. Now, as we go up, that starts dropping. All right, he has a 50% chance to go over 220 passing yards and a 50% chance to go over 238.5 passing yards, which is his minus 110 line that's out there right now. Now, this is based off of him going against teams that have a similar defense of what he's seeing tonight, pretty much. All right, that's what this probability is. It's not just overall. This is going in the similar situation of what he is playing tonight. So you have to understand that. Now, I do want to discuss when you're looking at probabilities and you're looking at data, similar to tonight, on the flip side, let's say Kirk Cousins, for example. Kirk Cousins is on a completely different team. All right? So you cannot use him being in Minnesota and use his data. You can't. He has different receivers. He has a different system that he's in. So you can't use that. All right? So the Falcons, you really can't use anything for them tonight for player prop wise because Kirk Cousins controls most of the offense. So you really can't use nothing to do with him. Bijan Robinson, can't really use much with him because now you have a new quarterback, so you don't know really how they are game planning. All right? You can't use last year's data for that. So what you would have to do is people that are on new teams, you need to pretty much get half of the season's data before making any decisions on those type of games. All right? So there will be no Falcons props for tonight whatsoever in probability because there's no data that backs it. Now, a couple people have reached out to me on, certain days, Monday Night Football, Sunday night, and they've asked this question because they're like, oh, well, this quarterback's, 70%. He went over 220 passing yards last season, but he was on a different team. You have to understand you have to disregard it. You can't use that stuff. All right, you cannot use data from a player on a different team and a different system. You can't. That does not have nothing to do with the system that they're in and the team that they're in now. So understand that. That's why as we go through, you will not see any Falcons players tonight. Because same thing with the receivers. Kirk Cousins is throwing to different receivers. So those receivers can be affected. Similar to Kyle Pitts. They haven't even used Kyle Pitts barely at all this year. All right? And last year, he was one of their main focal points. So you have to understand that. All right? Realize that when players are on different teams, you can't use the same data from the season before from them being on a different team. Just can't do it. All right, but back to Baker Mayfield here. 66% chance, like I said, for him to go over 200 passing yards versus teams that have a similar defense than the Atlanta Falcons tonight. All right, so the value here is only really at 200 passing yards. It's a 50-50 shot for anything else. So you wouldn't play the over 220 passing yards here, no matter what, because it's the same 50-50 shot for that and the minus 110 line at 238.5. All right, so just understand that's how you would navigate that as well. Me personally, obviously, I wouldn't be touching any of that because I like the highest ones, obviously. I only play the highest percentages. But you definitely wouldn't play a 50% shot at a 220 because that's like minus 160 right now. I think that line is at. There's no value there. All right, if you're going to take a 50-50 shot, obviously, yeah, you want a minus 110 line. But 66% chance to go over 200 passing yards, there's not really much value there too because the odds are a little bit higher for Mayfield. All right, for 200 yards. I think it's like minus 250 or something like that. So really no value on his passing yards tonight. But let's take a look at Chris Godwin. So it's a little bit interesting with Chris Godwin tonight. All right, he has a 60% probability to go over 50 receiving yards. But he has an 80% probability to go under 80 receiving yards. All right, so we have a little bit of an interesting conflict here with Chris Godwin. All right, and again, this is versus teams that are similar at guarding the wide receiver position as the Atlanta Falcons tonight. So 60% for him to go over 50, but 80% for him to go under 80. Now, he has been the number one receiver pretty much in targets for Tampa Bay. All right, so he should get some targets thrown his way. But when it really comes down to it, 80% is better than 60, all right? That's just all I'm going to say when it comes to that. So I would feel more comfortable with the 80% probability than the 60% probability. And Atlanta is pretty good in the secondary. They're pretty decent, all right? So if they could either double Godwin or just limit him a little bit, he should be able to go under that 80 yards. And I know that a lot of people are on the over his just receiving yards in general, all right? A lot of people are for tonight because he's getting one of the most highest target rates in the NFL, which is understood, all right? But the value, when you look at it, numbers are numbers. What are you going to do? Numbers are numbers, all right? There's an 80% chance for him to go under 80 receiving yards, all right? Now, what I wouldn't do is try to sandwich this. I wouldn't bet the over 50 and then the under 80 and try to get him between 50 and 80. I wouldn't do that, all right? You pick one or the other. That's really what it comes down to, all right? Let's get to Mike Evans now. So Mike Evans, who's kind of taken a little bit of a backseat to Chris Godwin as the number 2 receiver now, which is kind of weird because me personally, I think Mike Evans is a better player, but that's just my personal opinion. He has a 75% chance to go over 40 receiving yards. That drops to 62.5 to go over 50 receiving yards, and then it's a 50-50 shot pretty much at that minus 110 line of 60 receiving yards. All right, so the value here is obviously going to be over 75% because where else would you really go with that? All right, and the odds are a little high on the 40 receiving yards, but that's where you're getting the highest probability at. All right, so based off of probability and the analytics and the numbers here, this is what the game script looks like. It looks like Baker Mayfield would go out and would have a decent performance, but he wouldn't pass to Chris Godwin, and majority of his stuff is going to be going to Mike Evans. All right, that's just kind of what the game script of probability speaks for itself. All right, but let's go ahead and go through everything one more time, including baseball. All right, we'll start with Tobias Myers. He has over 70% chance for him to go under that 2.5, regardless of overall or against a top batting team. So not too bad of a shot there right off the bat. As for Jose Quintana, I probably would just lay off. All right, I would lay off Jose Quintana altogether because even with 66%, that's pretty good. But he has the tendency to have bad outings. All right, so who knows how he'll react to being in the playoffs, and this is a big game for them too. So next up, Willy Adames, 62% chance for him to get a hit, batting .357 against Quintana. I mean, you could take a shot with that if you want, all right? Plenty of you took a shot with Starling Marte. He was at like 67% probability. So when somebody is batting well against a certain pitcher, they always have a shot, all right? .357 against Quintana. He's going to face him at least twice, maybe 3 times. So he'll have a shot to get, up on that average against him, all right? And then Thursday Night Football, we got Baker Mayfield. The only value there is for him to go over 200 passing yards. Other than that, you got pretty much a coin flip on those. And once again, when it comes to a coin flip, and when you see 50% probability, that works both ways. So 50% for him to go over or under, it's the same thing. All right. Next thing, Chris Godwin. We got to kind of sandwich Chris Godwin here. You got a 60% shot for him to over 50, but you got 80% for him to go under 80. All right. Me personally, I probably would just stick with the under 80 because probabilities are probabilities. 80%. All right. I would stick with the higher one there for sure. And then Mike Evans. Only way you can go with Mike Evans here is over 40 receiving yards at 75%. All right. Other than that, there's really no other value that's out there. All right, guys, like I said, for tonight, Thursday Night Football, when you're looking at data, you need to understand that you can't use data from players that are on different teams. Just understand that. If you take anything away from the show today, that's what you need to take away. All right, don't use data when they were on different teams because that will be misleading. All right, and you will have the wrong stuff down pretty much. All right, guys, but as always, this is the Daily Profit. Hopefully you guys are winning. Hopefully you guys are keeping up with everything that I'm teaching you and you're learning. All right, because that's the point of this show. That way, so you guys can learn exactly what it takes to be a successful sports bettor. As always, guys, I'm Frank with Linemaker Sports. I'll see you guys in tomorrow's show. Till then, I'm out.